Assalamu alaikum and welcome back to the Power of Educating Our Own. This is a podcast hosted by the Clara Muhammad Schools Network. We are a network of approximately 20 schools. Those schools are full-time weekend, which we coined Strong End Schools, and virtual schools. And so those are in a remote format. And so we welcome you back to our podcast where we discuss all things education, but also things uplifting to our families, our children, our community. And so with that, we are proud to have the guest that we're going to have with us tonight, right? So we've been talking about the Founders Week, right? And so last week we were in Founders Week and we were sort of at the tail end of it, right? We were discussing our founders, right? The Honorable Elijah Muhammad, Sister Clara Muhammad, Imam Wafaddin Muhammad. And we know that their birthdays are in October and then that ending weekend into the beginning of November. And so we just thought it was fitting that we continue that conversation where we talk about those things that relate to our founders in our community. And tonight's guests are actually super instrumental in bringing us a book about Sister Clara Muhammad. And so we've seen this book, Mother of the Nation, all through this community. And tonight we want to bring them on to, discuss it, to talk about where it came from, what was the inspiration, how it came to be, and what were the plans for it now that we have the book on our hands. And I'll try to grab a copy and show you on the screen as well. But without further ado, actually, I'm sorry. I went way ahead, right? I'm all over.
I love your energy. You're so excited.
I'm all over the place. I am your co-host, Sister Marsha Nivens Muhammad. I am here with
Quran Shakir.
Patricia Salahuddin. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome, everyone.
Welcome. And so I did that all out of order. So that was definitely a bloopers, but nonetheless, we have some wonderful guests with us this evening. And we're going to jump right into the conversation. So we'll bring them on and do that. And so we have Imam Earl Al-Amin, we have Imam Abdul Wahid, and we have Sister Judy. Assalamu alaikum, everyone.
Alaikum.
So talk to us, right? So before we go into the book, right? Because I do want to know sort of like how that came to be, and I know that there were others that were instrumental in being a part of creating this book. But tell us about who you are before we sort of jump into the book. And so I'll start with Sister Judy because that's who I see first on my screen.
Assalamu alaikum. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Sister Judy Musa. Detroit, Michigan. That's where I'm from. My current position with IMAS, the Institute of Muslim American Studies, which is the publisher of Mother of the Nation, story of Sister Clara Muhammad. And my current position is chairman of the board, and we're responsible for publishing the book.
And I'll pop right over to Imam Abdul Wahid.
Assalamu alaikum. Abdul Wahid, originally from Harlem, New York, but reside now in Durham, North Carolina. I'm a part of the board of IMAS and was a very, very, very dear friend and student of Dr. Zakiya Muhammad. She was my first orientation teacher at Malcolm Shabazz Masjid in 1980. So we were very close. So I'm pleased to be able to promote this, and I am the distributor of the book.
Assalamu alaikum. I'm Imam Earl Al-Amin. I'm also a board member of IMAS, and I'm very, very still consider myself a very dear friend of Sister Dr. Zakiya Muhammad, who I'm from Baltimore, and she was from Baltimore. So we shared those roots of being Baltimoreans. And It wasn't many days that went by in the last 5 years of her life that she and I did not talk.
And thank you for that. So yeah, and you all mentioned Sister Zakia, right? And so, tell us how you all got started with this book. I know that she was a big part of it. And so tell us, where the idea even came from, right? And how it got going. And then we'll sort of go from there.
Assalamu alaikum again. This book had been in the process with Dr. Zakia Muhammad developing this for quite some time. And if you have read the book, in the beginning of it, she talks about they were having a conference, and I think it was Sedalia, and I think it was Sister Lottie, her daughter, began to talk about her mother. And prior to that, Sister Zakia was fascinated with the work that had been done by Sister Clara Muhammad. And then she made the decision that she wanted to write the biography. So I'm going to cut it kind of short, where she had been in contact with Imam Muhammad, and it kind of went back and forth. And then the approval was given to her by Imam Muhammad to write the book. Our involvement in the book was maybe about 2 or 3 years before Dr. Zakia, may Allah have mercy on her soul, passed. She had contacted, I think it was like about 6 or 7 of us, and she sent us the manuscript of the book. And we were supposed to, critique it, and she had prior to that, she had established a document as to how she wanted this book to be distributed and who would be in charge of it. So, we met with her a couple of times, and she passed in 2019. May Allah have mercy on her soul. And it was 4 of us that was left with the assignment to edit the book. Ajib Bilal, may Allah have mercy on his soul. Mario Ahmed, may Allah have mercy on his soul. Was another sister. The name is escaping me. She was
Dr.
in
King.
Oakland.
Dr.
Pardon me?
King. Dr. King.
No. This was a sister that was on the board, one of the founding members of IMAS, Jamila Malik and myself. Then it was the 4 of us that really had the responsibility of editing the book. Ajib Bilal, Mario Ahmed, Jamila Malik, and myself. So what you see here is about like 2 or 3 years of work to put this book together. And ironic part about it, we didn't know each other. We had Ajib and brother Mario knew each other, but Jamila and we didn't know each other. And all of this work was done online. We were communicating daily, weekly about editing this book. So what you have completed here is what all of us contributed to the editing of this book. And the decision was made at the time to have 2 volumes. So our main goal and objective was not to change the voice. Anything that Zakia had written, we wanted to keep intact. We did not want to change the voice. There was a few editing because dates and times were different, and we had to do a lot of editing and research and everything. But what you have is the final draft of about 3 or 4 years of us working together to edit this book. We couldn't, and after Ajib and Mario passed, we were kind of stuck. And Brother Earl and Brother Abdul, without hesitation, stepped in to help us to distribute the book and get it in the hands of everyone that needed the book. Personally, there are other books that have been written about Sister Clara Muhammad, but for us, and we could probably be a little biased, this was one of the first academic books that have been written by Sister Clara Muhammad. And Imam Muhammad, peace be upon him, he gave a directive to Dr. Zakiya to interview all of his sisters and brothers that was living at the time. So that's one thing important about it. And then the directive for the book was given to uh, the four of us, and we have a document that Zakiya put out that we should be responsible for publishing the book. And that's why IMAS, uh, Institute of Muslim American Studies, with Dr. Zakiya Muhammad founded, we're the publisher of the book. The book is copywritten. So we're doing all the necessary steps to keep the book in its original text in the way it should be. Currently, and I'm going to stop. Currently, we are working to combine the two volumes into one. So inshallah, we'll have that probably ready within another, 5 to 6 months, and that's a labor of love because it's cost, and the sale of the book is basically been within our community. And Brother Abdul Wahid, he's very, 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 very instrumental in making sure this book gets out in our community. It's not a big profit-making venture. The book, for what it sells for on Amazon, Amazon gets their cut and we get a cut. But it's not a big profit-making venture. But we feel that once it's into one volume, then we can expand the book getting out different universities. And there's so many things that we've talked about. And Brother Earl and Brother Wahid, step in when you can, because I can go. But some of our goals and objectives are this book should be in every university and most high schools, and we want this to be included for African American History Month and for Women's History. For us as Muslims, Clara Muhammad is our Sojourner Truth. She's our Harriet Tubman, and she should have the status that they have throughout American history, because what she was involved in and how she helped establish who we are now. This book should be a required reading at most universities. And my last point was Brother Abdul that we just left Durham. The brother was there, and he had just slipped my mind. Clara's fruit. Mm-hmm. He talked about that, and I wanted to make the comment that all of us are Clara's fruit. And maybe we'll get a chance to go into that because it's known now, and I think it's known a lot. Some people know it, but it's known now because of this book. Clara Muhammad introduced Elijah Muhammad to Master Farad Muhammad. And there's other things I can get into. So all of us are standing on, if you came through the Nation of Islam, and if you are part of the what I'll still call it, the African American Muslims, American Muslim mission, you are here. We know nothing happens except by the will of Allah. And I believe Allah works through people. So for us, where we are now is because of Clara Muhammad. And we can talk about Malcolm X, Muhammad Ali, Mr. Farrakhan, Imam Muhammad. But if Allah hadn't have put Sister Clara here to do her work, where would we be? Okay, I'm gonna stop. Sister Marsha, you know y'all, Sister Quran, you know you gotta tell me to stop now.
You
But I
sound
have
good.
more to say.
Don't worry. You
I,
sound good.
I have more to say, but I'm gonna I'm gonna kind of slow up a little bit.
I'm loving
So
hearing it. So no, we're not going to stop you because we want to hear it. Thank you
Yeah.
for sharing that.
well, there's more that I have to say, but I'm gonna back up a little bit for and it's four of us now that's working on this book. The three of us that you have here, and Sister Jamila. And Sister Jamila is not here because she's on Umrah. So this is a collective effort. I like to think that I'm in control and all of this, but I know better. These brothers keep me in check. So that's I'm gonna back up a little bit. Alhamdulillah.
She is leading the project, though. She is our
Yeah.
leader,
Alhamdulillah.
no doubt.
Alhamdulillah.
That's right.
Alhamdulillah.
And I know that a part of what Dr. Zakia did, I hear you as you share her journey, how while she was at that teacher's college in Sadaya, that inspiration came to her. And then she did her due diligence with talking with the imam, his family. It's her research. When you read this book, and I agree with you, it should be in every university, every school. It should be a part of our studies. And even in the Claire Muhammad School Network, one of the things we tell people is when you orient your teachers, this is the book they need to understand our school and the work that went into producing this institution. But I would love to hear from all of you when you talk about the editing work that you did, but really talk about that research that's in the book, because this is a book of academics, as you say. It's a academic work for sure. But she also writes it. When you talk about her voice, she writes it in a way that makes it easy to read. It's a story, like as you're reading it. So it's not just a lot of plain academic reading, but the content itself is rich academically. But the way it's written is so beautifully written. So I would love to hear about the research that went into the book.
Brother Earl.
I think, Assalamu alaikum. In all of the conversations that we would have, and she would intimate to me the research, we would talk, and she said, I had to interview Elijah Jr., and I had to interview, and she, and all her research, and the questions that she would ask were very pristine, and she was driven because she was so inspired. Let me go back and say that Dr. Zakia really understood, more so than most Muslim women that I've encountered, the role and the responsibility of the women in our way of life. And not only that, she had understood that Sister Clara Muhammad played such an integral role in the establishment of the community, but not just the establishment of the community of the Nation of Islam, but the forward projection of Islam in America, and i.e. predicated on education. And so she understood that. And as you know, Dr. Zakia was a graduate of Columbia University. And I used to always tease, I say, you think you're so smart because you're an Ivy Leaguer, but she was driven, and the research was very meticulous. She had to interview so many people, and then she had to codify all of that information to bring that back so that it could be so we could review it. It was a labor of love for her, but it took a lot out of her too. Let me be real. It took a lot out of her to do that.
It was like giving birth. That's what we've often talked about. This book was, she gave birth to this.
Yeah.
Yeah. Go ahead, Imam. Go for it.
I was just gonna say I'm not as astute as my two colleagues.
Father, please come on.
years work with the book. But just knowing her, like I mentioned, 1980, but it was in 82 when Imam Muhammad spent some time in New York, and he began to assign different people in the community different responsibilities. And she became the directors of education then. Uh, but she was always a wonderful teacher. So I'm not surprised by this work because of her mind and her ability to teach and communicate. She's a very clear communicator. And when she was in California, she would call me sometime because we were pretty close. And she would call me sometime and just talk to me about really encouraging me that we have to do this work. We have to get Imam Muhammad's word out there to the wider public. And she knew that I was working very closely with Dr. Sierra Lincoln before he passed away. So she would encourage me because they knew her as well. And I just want to make this point. I just happened today, Allah willed, I was talking to a professor friend of mine who's at a conference. And we were talking about, she had been asking me for several times, for a couple of years now, we've been talking about getting Imam Muhammad's work on the university. So she now is doing no more research, so she has a free time. So just today, she and I committed to do this work. So I'm going to introduce this piece to her as well for us to get in the university just today.
Mm-hmm.
That's great. That's really great. I was thinking about the first book, when the first book was like in circulation for, and everyone was getting their copy, and I got my hands on a copy. I think I read that in, it had to be either 2 or 3 days. Like that weekend, I just kept turning the page and turning the page because it was so interesting to be able to hear the story, right? Because we often hear the piece about her and the truancy officer, and we, that piece is so prominent, but to have the whole story sort of be told, I was definitely in the book. And I was like, ooh, I read this book in the whole weekend. But mashallah, it's a really, really good book. And so I'm curious to know, I know that, like I said, a large part of this, it was her work, right? And so you all were in some way supporting it and currently supporting it. And so I'm curious to know, what parts of the book or what parts of the story kind of, stand out for you or resonate with you. Again, we are in this space where we are remembering the founders and remembering the journey, and really highlighting it for our children in our schools. So we celebrate things like Founders Week in our schools. Some of the schools do that, and more, we're encouraging other schools to be a part of that. And they're learning this story. I know for our weekend school in Newark, we did play the Clara's Fruit video for them. And so as they're learning more and more of the story, um, they're finding a pride in it. And so I'm just curious to know from you all, sort of what pieces of the story, you know, stand out for you, or significant or interesting to you. Do you have any favorites?
A lot of this is important. The name of Sister Clara Muhammad on this school, but who she was stood out more with me than anyone. I mean, more than me, more to me because of the role that she played in the development of why the school should be named Sister Clara Muhammad. It's more than just a stand. Her role in Allah tells us to reverence the womb that bore you. Now, a lot of times when we hear about Imam Muhammad, they'll say son of Elijah Muhammad.
Right.
And I had to beg the difference with them at a conference we had in Detroit. And I was kind of like, ooh. I said, Imam Muhammad is the son of Sister Clara Muhammad,
Yes.
and Elijah Muhammad. So that was a shift that we had. Another part of this that's so important is the role that Sister we know she's Imam Muhammad's mother, but as you as educators, the formative years of children's lives
Mm-hmm.
are up until the time they're about 10 or 11. And it's a brother that was with us, and he said, I think when you're up until 8 or 9, 7, 8 or 9, your personality is set. And then when you get 10, that's who you are. So up until the time of Imam Muhammad was maybe about 12 or 13, his mother nurtured and raised him. Elijah Muhammad was moving about the country. He was in one city and he was here, he was there. So who we had is Honorable Wallace D. Muhammad. He was nurtured by Sister Clara. His growth and development, who he was, who his personality, it was all with Sister Clara. He really didn't begin to have a relationship, and you can correct me if I'm wrong with some of these dates, until he was about 13 or 14.
That's true.
He was born in 1933 and I'm looking at a chronologic outline of her life. In 1934, Elijah Muhammad had to go to Chicago to get away from what was going on here in Detroit. And from that point on, he was incarcerated. He had to leave from one city to the other. So Clara Muhammad was very, very, very instrumental, as mothers are, in the growth and development of who Wallace D. Muhammad was. That's significant. And Imam Muhammad, in his own words, in this book, The Treasure Under the Wall, he spoke about his mother. And it's not a lot, but there's a few snippets here and there. She came from a very, very, very dark period. She was born during a very dark period of our time. Racism, Jim Crow, she experienced this firsthand. She knew uh, she knew what society she was raising her children in. This is the beginning of the stand. She did not want these people educating her children. So that's the beginning of it. But how she began to develop and carry the Nation of Islam on her shoulders while her husband was being chased and incarcerated, that's very, very, very significant. And that's a part of the book that I was impressed with.
Yeah.
Because this is the part of I didn't know about this. You know, the Quran being introduced in the penal system.
Right.
They wrote this by outhand. And I used to, I was a chaplain when I was in Detroit. I mean, in LA. We ain't know nothing about Sister Clara Muhammad's instrument. We couldn't get the Qurans in the prison at the time.
Mm.
But she was instrumental in this. And then this is something that we don't talk about a lot, but how she had to deal with the problems that you have in a marriage. All of this was brought to the forefront. And we're like, ooh, but it's nothing unusual.
Right.
If you've been married, you're going to have some problems.
That's right.
So these things were brought to the forefront, but never did she miss a step. Never did Sister Clara Muhammad miss a step about the importance of what Allah had sent her here, what her purpose was. And that was, it was bigger than her. And she held to it without, there's so many conversations that we have about the way she carried herself, the way she dressed, the way she spoke with people. She would go to the big conferences that they would have. Her name wasn't even mentioned. But she sat there very stoic, You know, she was an example of how women could carry themselves, how we should dress. There was no other women doing that during the time Sister Claire Muhammad came up. We were, we was following, back during that time, before our time. We wanted to be like the white folks. We wanted to straighten our hair. We wanted to dress, but she knew it was more for us than that. So, to answer your question, Sister Marcia, it was not one particular thing, but what she did for us as for the uh, Muslim African American Muslim women throughout the country, and women throughout the country, because the Nation of Islam had a direct impact on the Black Power movement that was going on here in the United States during the 60s. And a lot of people that came through that, they came through the Nation of Islam.
Yeah.
And any of you have heard me say, there were Noble Drew Ali, Marcus Garvey, and there were Muslims here before us, but the Nation of Islam here in Detroit, I got to throw that in. The Nation of Islam made it cool to say Assalamu alaikum. There was no other group, no other people that were doing that. There was Muslims here. I'm in Detroit, Ford Motor Company. We have one of the largest community Muslim Middle Eastern population anywhere in the United States. They work for the Ford Motor Company. Even now, you walk up to an immigrant, you say, "What's your name?" They're gonna say Mo. They don't say Mohammed. But we African American Muslims made that possible. We are the ones, by the work that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and gave Sister Clara Muhammad, we all have a responsibility. So she stepped into her role. She did what she was supposed to do. The the trouble that she had with her children, the trouble that she had in the marriage. We all know that, it was polygamy and different things like that. Ain't nothing new for us, but she stood the test of time. So this is why the education that she stressed for her children, she educated her sons. She was the foundation for Imam Wafdi Muhammad. So this is why our schools should be named Sister Claire Muhammad School. They were the University of Islam. We have all that documentation. But when her son came in and said change the name to Claire Muhammad School, it wasn't because of the stand. It wasn't because of that. It was because of the essence of who his mother was. And that's why our schools should be named Sister Claire Muhammad Schools. And if you don't have a Sister Claire Muhammad School, and I know I'm talking about myself, I'm gonna shoot myself in the foot here in Detroit, and I'm gonna say it it's a shame, that we don't have a Sister Claire Muhammad School here in Detroit. We all started it, but that's something we're working on, Sister Patricia. So, but that's this sister is whoever we put up there at the top, they better move over and make room for Sister Clara Muhammad.
You made a good point, Sister Judy, when you talked about how Dr. Zakia gives you the historical perspective. So I think what I found really, really interesting was how she infused in the story of Sister Clara Muhammad history lessons.
Yes.
So we were able to understand the Jim Crow period.
Yes.
And she brought in real life experiences and even pictures from that time, or to bring us through the civil rights movement and the people and the times. And even when you talked about what she did for women, when Dr. Zakia presents this story, she tells the story of how Sister Clara Muhammad got her foundation in the church.
Yes.
And then she brings you through the history and tells you then of how Sister Clara Muhammad infused her foundational learnings into the formation of the Muslim girls training.
Yeah.
And it's amazing. It's amazing the way that Dr. Zakiya does that. So, and I'm saying this because I want our audience to know that this is not an ordinary book. And it is definitely a good read for those who want to know deeper knowledge and deeper understanding about the person and history itself. So, we're saying we should use it for Black History Month, Women's History Month, but I think history classes can use this too, just to teach about their time. So, and I know our brothers wanted to share some of the impact that the research had on them, some of your most impactful stories. So I'm going to pause to give you also an opportunity to talk about the impactful stories that you found in the reading of the book.
For me, it was the whole book, to be candid with you, from a historical perspective. But you just, Sister Quran, you just hit something that I had written a note down, and I said MGT. And I think the Muslim girls training was very important, because the training that she had already been introduced to was like, back when I was a little younger, they used to have what they call finishing schools in the African American community. And the girls were taught how to set the table, how to cook, how to do all of those things that were so relevant to being a mother and a woman. And so she was able to infuse that. Really, it was a curriculum. It was a curriculum. If you studied MGT classes, it was a curriculum. And what she was able to do was to infuse that in the community. What that ultimately did for the community, what most people don't realize, yes, the brothers, the minister was out front, the captain was out front. But one of the things that Imam Muhammad always stressed was that the unseen is stronger than the seen. And that the unseen was Clara Muhammad. And she was stronger than the seen, because what she was able to do was to give the community a foundation. And the foundation really was predicated on the growth and the development of the sisters, and the sisters growing and developing the children. So that via education. So that, to me, it was awesome how she was able to do that, and with a limited, what we would say, education. But we understand where she was coming from in Georgia. And what was also interesting to me was that despite the family really didn't want her to marry the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, because it was a class system there. She was marrying down, you know what I mean? So all of those things, so that mindset was there, and even in Jim Crow South, our people still were holding on to some of this class stuff all then. So it was very, very interesting to me. And from what the Imam had told me was that she was the one that was very, very influential in having his brother Akbar, to go and study in Egypt. She was very influential in doing that. And so, I mean, the first African American Muslim to graduate from Al Azhar. So, and that is the Imam's brother. So, all of that influence, but the unseen is stronger than the seen.
If I could add to what Imam Earl just said, what stood out for me in the book was Sister Clara Muhammad's. All throughout her life, you could see a person that was strong in faith, very principled person, was unshakable in her faith, and it demonstrates itself throughout. When you go back to the truant officer coming to the house, and she making that statement, that was strength. That's inner strength. She demonstrated inner strength. When you think about her carrying the Honorable Elijah Muhammad off the street as a drunk, and the Imam, she was able to put him on her back and thump him on the bed. And the Imam, I heard him talk about how she was able to carry 100-pound bag up the steps by herself. He said he was too young to help her, but she was. So I'm talking about inner strength that she demonstrated, strong faith. And then I said earlier before we started the program that something special is happening with us as a group, and sometimes we don't recognize it. But when you think about, for example, Sister Clyde Muhammad was only able to go to the 7th grade, that number 7. Elijah Muhammad went to the 3rd grade, that number 3. And you add that 7 and 3 together, you got 10. And then Elijah Muhammad, when he came into, first time he went to see Mr. Farad, and he gave charity, he gave 10 cents. All those are signs. And the Imam taught us very clearly about signs, but the Imam would always talk a lot about his mother. And I think one of the things stood out to me too, we mentioned about prison and getting the Qurans in prison. See, these are things that we need to really highlight. And then what did Elijah Muhammad give Sister Clara Muhammad from the Quran to read to the Imam at an early age? Surah Luqman, verses 13 through 15. And what do those say? If your parents try to get you to worship other than God, don't do that. With justice, that was powerful stuff then. So that tells you really what the intent was for this community from the very beginning, But I saw her strength, her support for her husband was unshakable support for Elijah Muhammad. And Sister Judy makes an excellent point, and we all need to get accustomed to doing this ourselves. He is the son of Clara and Elijah. We really need it. That's very important. Very important.
Assalamualaikum.
You're muted.
You're on mute, Dr. Patricia. Yes. Go ahead. You're not on mute now. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. I won't touch it. All right. Assalamualaikum, everyone. Thank you so much for coming and sharing this with us. And it's so wonderful to hear from you, who just had your fingers in everything in the publication of this book and making sure it happened for us. One of the things that you said earlier about Sister Clara Muhammad and how her influence was with the women. But as I was reading that book, I noticed that she was influenced throughout. Like, it wasn't just the women. When the men were in prison, when Honorable Elijah Muhammad was in prison, and other men were in prison, she was the one that was telling people what to do. She was the one that was helping and getting information from Elijah Muhammad and giving it to the leaders at that time. And when she didn't get information directly, she was giving directions. She knew what to do for everybody, and that was just so amazing. That's the kind of person that she was. And from this book, I was like you, Sister Marsha. I don't read books fast, but that one I couldn't put that one down. I would definitely read. I was reading that book, and it took me just a few days to finish that book. And it is the way the story flows. She tells a story, and it's supported. It's academic in the sense that she supports it. I mean, when you hear other people tell stuff, okay, you're wondering, where did you get that from? Is that really true? There was no question with Dr. Zakia's book. No question. Even though it's very readable and it's very easy to read, you definitely know that whatever she's telling you is supported, and she has it backed up with lots of not just one, but more than one way of supporting what she has to say. So that book's exciting. The book should be in every class, every school, every Sister Clara Muhammad school. That book should be a actual history book, a supplement to our history classes. Right, Dr. Sister Kran, you're right. It should be in every history class. That's what it should be. And then we should promote our own material in our own schools and do it first. And then it should be in every library. And of course, whenever we go to our conference and conventions, that book should be on somebody's table, inshallah. Thank you so much.
Can the salesman out of me come out right quick? And that is, can you all help us connect with those schools that aren't existing, and
Oh,
we will send them
absolutely.
application to get that so they can get this book.
Absolutely.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Well,
And I know some time ago we had a book club going for the Cloud Muhammad Schools Network, and we're reading I think it was just the first book. I'm not sure if we got to the second one. And so some of them have it, but for those who don't have it, absolutely we can put you in touch with them so that we can make sure that the schools get them. For those of you who are just joining us, you are watching The Power of Educating Our Own podcast hosted by the Cloud Muhammad Schools Network. And we are talking about the book Mother of the Nation. And this book is about Sister Clara Muhammad, and we are speaking with Sister Judy Musa, Imam Abdul Wahid, and Imam Amin. And they were instrumental in making sure that this book got published, um, for all the work that Sister Zakiya Muhammad had put together in order for the book to be. And so, for those of you who are joining us, tell us where you're joining us from. Put it in the comment section and let us know if you have a question or a comment. Share it in the comment section. I see um, Sister Bina is joining us. She gives us the salams. And so, as others pop in, I'll also share their information on the screen. I was just thinking as you all were talking, thinking back to something that Sister Quran said, that piece stood out to me as well. The history piece of it, right? Because oftentimes I feel like when we're telling the story of Sister Claire Muhammad, we're telling it in our bubble, right? In the experience in this community, right? And so for me, I'm thinking of it as being in this bubble. But I love how the book showed us the bubble within the larger community, right? And not it's not very often that we're telling the story that way. A lot of times we really just focus on our nucleus of an experience, but there's things happening in the world at the same time. And I felt like the book did a really good job of doing that. We have a couple of other people who are giving us the greetings. We have Haja Amina Sabri from Atlanta who's watching. And so if anybody else pops on, I'm gonna bring it on there as well. So yeah, uh, I'm encouraging everyone to go out and get a copy of the books. Talk to us a little bit about is it a foundation, the organization that manages the book? And forgive me, I don't remember I'm gonna mess up the acronym, but IMS, right? That's it? Okay.
This is
Um,
Judy.
if you can just kind of tell us a little bit about that, right? Because that's the effort that's keeping this book in circulation. And so let us know a little bit more about that so that our viewers know that it is alive and well and how to support the effort.
IMAS, the Institute of Muslim American Studies, was a foundation started by Dr. Zakiya Mohammed. And the purpose of it is to promote the academic and scholarship of Muslim African Americans in this country. There were a lot of ideas and goals and objectives that they had. That was I wasn't a founding member of the organization, but a lot of the ideas and objectives and goals Dr. Zakiya Muhammad wasn't able to see actualize because of her health condition. And because of that, uh, near the end of her life, all of her efforts, and I'd probably say maybe about 4 or 5 years before she passed, all of her efforts were put into this book. We're functioning now, and our main goal is this book. That's basically all we're working on now. We have a lot of ideas. It's a nonprofit organization, and there are a lot of things that we would like to see done carrying out some of the ideas that Dr. Zakia had. I don't have all of them on the top of my head because basically we've been working on the publishing of this book. And it's important to know, the community to know that I am in the position I'm in because of Dr. Zakia. This isn't something that, oops, it just popped up. We have documentation that Dr. Zakia Muhammad wanted us to go this route. And like I said, when Mario Ahmed, may Allah have mercy on his soul, and G. Bilal, when they passed, over 90% of the book editing had been done. And that was volume 1. We published that. Volume 2 was completed by Mario Ahmed's daughter, Minna Ahmed. And it was another labor of love. It's effort. If any of you have published books, and Brother Abdul, you know this, to get something on Amazon. It takes a lot of work, and there's other publishers and different things that we can go to, but this was the quickest way for us to get it out. So the second volume was published, and a lot of people thought that when the first volume came out, that was the end of it. But we did the second volume, and it was a period of time because there was so much work that had to be done. So right now, I'm asked, and if you go to our website, most of the information that's on their website was developed by Dr. Zakia Muhammad. And we haven't updated it or changed any of it because, again, all of our attention has been on the book. But we are a nonprofit organization. We're still in existence. And the directive to finish this book was given by Dr. Zakia Muhammad, was given to us by Dr. Zakia Muhammad. And then again, when we needed help, Imam Earl and Imam Abdul, they stepped up and helped us, to carry the work out. And what I was about to say, we want to continue to push the book, but Brother Abdul has given me a charge that we need one volume. So please buy the book, but know that we're coming out with one volume. And any Claire Muhammad school that purchases a book, and Sister Quran, we give you a discount, when you purchase a book for the students. And it almost at cost. So it's not a profit-making venture. We're not a profit-making organization. It's not, I'm looking for funds now to help us do this into one volume. The cost is about between $5,000 to $7,000 because it has to be edited, it has to be combined, it has to be reformatted, and all of this cost. And so we did one launch good when we first started the book, but there's no funding and no resources that we have other than us basically coming out of our pocket to have this book published. So we could we want to do another fundraise, launch good, but funds are needed to have this book done. And then once we get that one volume, then there's other things that IMAS can go on and do on some of the. We have all type of scholars in our community that are writing books that we need to help publish and get them out. We have scholars that go around speaking, and they have other organizations that sponsor them. And these are some of the things that we wanted to do at IMAS, Institute of Muslim American Studies. And Dr. Zakia Muhammad was a scholar. There's no two ifs, ands, and buts about that. This sister was a scholar. And before she passed, I had the opportunity to go back to California and visit with her. I thought I was walking into a library. I mean, books, and unfortunately, we have intellectual rights, but we don't have a lot of the information that that she had done made available to us. And it mattered and it didn't matter because the most important work that she had done was this book, and we have access to that. So,
And that was about to be my next question was what happened with all of her books. I know she was a walking library, but she had a library in her home and she had all of the research, the papers, the cassette tapes and videos that she had made from her interviews. And I was wondering what happened with all of that because we're looking at this idea of we have to become archivists also in our community.
um, it was a lot going on when Dr. Zakia passed. Um, I don't want to get into a lot of the personal things that was going on, but um, we need to take care of our business right now because when we pass, if we don't have a proper documentation as to what we want to happen with our possessions, intellectual property, books and stuff, it's up for grabs. And that's not putting pointing a finger at anyone. I'm in Detroit. Ajib was in
Albania.
Albania. Mario Ahmed was in DC. Jamila was in DC. So there was no way that we could get there and take possession of different things. So
Yeah.
again, it was troublesome, but we got the book. We had the manuscript. She had sent the manuscript to about 6 or 7 people. The original manuscript that she had written, and we still are in possession of that. So all the other things that she had done, and I have a few cassettes, tapes. We would have her, as you know, I was with International League of Muslim Women in California. Every time we had a conference, who was there? Dr. Zakia Muhammad. So we have tapes of her speaking. The last speech that she gave was here in Detroit, and we have that on tape. So those different things like that can be shared throughout the community. But the actual book, um, we have copywritten. We went through the Library of Congress. It cost us quite a bit of money, but we have a copyright on books on the book. So we're not worried about that. Anytime any information about the book, people want to use it and whatever, it has to come through our mass. And believe me, Brother Earl and Brother Abdul, they ain't letting nothing slip through. So, I mean, I'm doing the talking, but believe me, if it's something that goes awry, they're on it because
Yeah.
of their knowledge, their abilities, and books, imam, so it's well protected. So I
And
hope that
that's such a
answered
good
your question.
no, yeah, and that's such a good thing to for us to even lift up in this conversation. We've had shows that where we've sort of highlighted that historical preservation and Sister Khan just talked about being archivists, right? And doing it in a way where we're able to really have a secure ownership of the things that we experience as a community, but also what we're putting out into the public space. And so we appreciate you all for the work that you've done to bring this book to the light and keep it in front of us, and bring volume 2. And now we're going to be looking forward to seeing it all in one volume, right?
Yeah.
And so we're grateful to the work you have done, because Sister Claire Muhammad's story is it's just so inspirational. I said earlier, we all sort of know about the interaction with the truancy officers, and then there are all these other stories, and layers to her story that we learn in the book that maybe everyone doesn't know, right? And then it gives you an idea of who she was as a person. And I love that Sister Judy said that, Imam Muhammad, this is the Claire Muhammad's son, right?
Yeah.
So like he's her son too, and that his development is really a direct result of her mothering, and her willingness to do what it is that she needed to do, even if it was to put herself in harm's way to make sure that her children were protected. And that story within itself is one to highlight and to be an inspiration to us as a community. And then we go on to the other stories that we talked about today about her, really leading the community when her husband wasn't present to be able to do so. And so all of that, or the culmination of all of that, we find in the book, but we also experience in the community and in the development of our Clara Muhammad schools and what they were intended to be. And so as we work together to um, strengthen the schools, revive the schools, start new schools, all of those intentions, that's the spirit in which we, want to move forward with making those things happen. And so I just want to say I appreciate you all for the work that you all have done to make it happen. I'm just gonna look in the comment section just to see if I
While you're doing that, and we want to thank you,
Yes.
for allowing us to have this format. And we'll tell it again because we need to hear this again and again and again and again throughout the Quran. A lot it's repetitive. The stories are told over and over again, but it was a different time. And this is not to take away anything from what we were told or what we learned up until that time. It's all relative. Now we're changing the narrative, and it's not taking away any of our history. It's only adding to it, because what the Nation of Islam did, and all the people that were involved in it, I mean, it's unprecedented. This is our history as African American Muslims in this country. And so this, thank you so very much for allowing us to tell our story again. We're grateful. I'm
absolutely.
happy.
If I could suggest something that because it's pretty evident that our history as a community has been purposely trying to be eclipsed by others.
Mhm.
When you even think about African American History Month, uh, we as a community, our leaders don't get any attention from the outside of us. And I don't think we do enough. So I'm suggesting that we do something. African American History Month, we not the only time, but let's highlight them. Imam W. Muhammad, Sister Clara, and Elijah Muhammad. We should highlight them. And one of the things when we had our 50th anniversary celebration, we had we had already had the intent to have recognition to Imam Muhammad and Sister Clara. But we said we can't have this weekend and not include the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. So I think that should be our thinking because they come together. And I think that's important for us because and I know a lot of us we try to escape that history because we afraid of the perception that other people have about what was and what it wasn't Islam. Forget that. We can handle that argument. I think it's important for us to put ourselves out in the public during that time African American History Month. So I'm recommending to us that we consider some days of that month that we make it big deal days. You know, whether it's the second, the third, and the fourth. I'm Elijah Muhammad Day, Imam W.D. Muhammad Day, Sister Muhammad Day in African American History Month. Because they don't do it for us. You look at the calendars don't do it. There's so much to try to eclipse us. Elijah Muhammad was known as the most powerful black man in America.
In America.
In America. And they try to eclipse that like it didn't happen. And they try to, we love Malcolm. And Malcolm wasn't Malcolm until he met Elijah Muhammad.
That's right.
So I think we have to change, somebody just said the narrative. We have to change the narrative. And we have to do it very aggressively too, as a community. But I think it's important that we do that. That's the first time I thought about saying that, but I said it, and I'm gonna start promoting it.
I'm glad you said it. I'm glad you said it because also the other thing that, since we're putting out these things, we have to also look at the fact that since we're celebrating Sister Clara Muhammad right now, we're talking about her and the Clara Muhammad schools that she started in 1933. We're at 2026, basically, because we're at the end of 2025. We're just a few years away from it being 100 years. Yeah. What are we going to do to celebrate that 100 years of courage, 100 years of vision coming real to us? So that's the other thing. We also need to look at the centennial of this and get our whole country celebrating it.
Absolutely, and I've heard some conversations about what 100-year celebration can look like. So I don't know what it'll wind up being, but I think we should just all keep our eyes and ears open for what that can become because I've been hearing it in circles, and it's exciting to know that the possibility of what that could look like. And so as we wind down, oh, go ahead, Dr. Patricia. You're on mute though, I think. No, you're not. Go ahead.
Okay. Okay, I have an idea for 100 years. How about some more schools named Clara Muhammad School? That's what we can do. We can open up more schools. Open up a school in every major city that we have. We have Washington, D.C., we have Miami, we have New York, we have all of these places, these large cities. Let's open up schools and let's have those schools open by the time that 100th year rolls around. How about that? And
it's a great idea.
Yeah, and that's what we can do because now we got something concrete to say. Yes, Sister Clara Muhammad, we're listening to you. We heard you. We believe in you. We know that Allah has blessed you, and we're going to reap those benefit from those blessings that you receive. And then another thing, we this book that we have that we have now that needs to become one volume. We can get sponsors, fundraising. What about sponsors? What about these people with pockets, with money in them to support this effort? People in our community that could possibly support this effort. We need to look into getting sponsors for our project, especially this particular project. Those are my suggestions.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And we have Sister Amina Sabri saying, let's do it. So yeah, for those of you who are listening, Dr. Patricia gave us two charges. One is to open up more schools across the country. And the second is to seek out those sponsorship dollars to help in the effort to make this 2-volume into 1 volume so that it could aid into the circulation of this book at a wider scale. We want to be able to see it in universities and in libraries across this country for the significance of Sister Clara Muhammad's story, but also yes, and in that story, I wanted to say that, many people talk, when they mention her, they talk about her being um, the one of the founders of homeschool education, right? And so that's something to be acknowledged as well, as we have a conversation about her and about the work that happened as a result of what she did in that homeschool format being formed, right? That private school in the home, and as a means to protect our children from influences that we uh, would prefer that they not encounter. And so, those two charges are out there. So if you're hearing me, just know that you have been charged with it too. And we are to the point where we're winding down this conversation. So I will give our guests one last word, if there's anything that you wanted to share with us before we end this conversation.
If you're interested in helping to support us to get this into one volume, contact Sister Karan, Sister Patricia, Sister Marcia, and they'll be in touch with us. And you're donating to a nonprofit organization. So and we need the help from our community. So whatever amount that you're able to donate or provide, we'll be thankful for that. And just an example of what you're talking about, we did this pamphlet for Muslim African American History Month in February of 2024. And it's just a little book, and it says the Muhammad family.
Nice.
Talks about, it has a picture of Elijah Muhammad, Sister Claire Muhammad, and Wallace D. Muhammad, Imam Muhammad. And it's just some information that we basically gathered online. And we just put it together. I can make copies of it and send it to you, or you can do it yourself. And this is what we passed out during African American History Month.
Wonderful.
Basically, the Muhammad family. That's what we're talking about. And it just talks about, it's a timeline of their history. And I also have a timeline here that I'm going to share with you all about Sister Claire Muhammad. I'll make sure that you all get that. And thank you again for having us. We're so grateful. Alhamdulillah, we're extremely grateful.
Yeah, that's all I want to say is thank you all, and you all keep up your good work.
Yeah,
because we need voices like y'all out there. So
thank you so much.
Yeah, I'd say thank you so much, and we always look forward to you all bringing us back on so we can tell the story of probably one of the greatest story in American history. So we like to be work with you all. Thank you so much.
Alhamdulillah.
Thank you. And so this has been another episode of The Power of Educating Our Own. Again, this is a podcast that is hosted by the Clan Muhammad Schools Network. We are here every Sunday, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And we invite you to join us back next Sunday as we continue conversations centered around the Founders Week. We're sort of extending that conversation throughout the month of November as we recognize and acknowledge the founders of this community. And with that, I bid you adieu. Assalamu alaikum. That is, may God's peace be upon you. And until next time, peace.
Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum assalam. Alhamdulillah.
Now, in concluding this, when the slave traders and the black traders of Africa, traitors, different, traitors, when the slave traders and the traitors of Africa called themselves Muslims, were fighting each other and carrying on and weakening their people over there so that the white traders come in there and get us, take us on slave ships and bring us here. Now, all right? Yeah. So now, when all that happened, what you think was happening to our human soul? Let me tell you, God has given me an eye to see into the very abstract form of the human being by my study of the Quran. Yes. Now, I'm going to tell you what was happening. I know. as if I was there. The soul of those victims had given up on this world. They knew they were going to their death. They knew they were going to circumstances that were going to finish them off. They would never have their lives again. They knew that. But in their soul, they were saying, our children will one day be free again, and they will serve God. We have failed, but our children will one day serve God. And now their prayer that they prayed in the deep recesses of their soul has come true. And not only are the descendants of the black people of Africa from Islam coming to Islam, taking up the divine cause, but those who never were Muslims, their children from Christianity, their children from Judaism, their children from paganism are embracing Islam in America. And we are going to build new Africa. New Africa, right here in the United States. Allahu Akbar. And the soul of those suffering victims, they're rejoicing because of us here today.